Steve Cox, welcome to Western Sydney Unfiltered. As CEO of Destination New South Wales, the state's marketing agency, events agency, you inherit a Western Sydney with growing tourism aspiration, with its own airport on the way. It's a beautiful backdrop. I can almost see the west in your backdrop there. I know it's the swing it round, as we call this, Eastern Sydney. Mate, as you settle into this role as the state's said events and tourism guru, what can Western Sydney do for you?
Oh, look, it's not. I think it's less about what Western Sydney can do for me and what we can all do together. I think, and Chris, firstly, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to catch up with you today. It's always enjoyable to have a chat to you. And look, hopefully you'll come in and we'll show you around Vivid when lights go on soon. It's been long overdue. Mate, what can Western Sydney do for me? Look, I really do think it's about all of us working together. I mean, Western Sydney, the purpose, the vision and mission of Destination New South Wales is to deliver economic and social benefit for the people in New South Wales by growing the visitor economy. When I first joined, we wrote the Visitor Economy Strategy 2030, and that sets a very clear vision for the future to be the premier visitor economy of the Asia Pacific, with $65 billion of turnover for the New South Wales economy by 2030. And we chose Asia Pacific specifically because it's not about looking inside in Australia and trying to be the best here. This is about saying we want to be the best in the Asia Pacific region, the place where everyone wants to come to. And I think that's the kind of aspiration that we absolutely have to have. And for us to achieve that, the biggest growth opportunities in my mind, there's two very significant growth opportunities. One is international visitation. Yep. It is wrong that Australians spend more going overseas and travelling than the entire rest of the world spends travelling to this amazing state. So that's a huge opportunity, and one which, when you look at our visitor economy strategy, the third phase of it is the acceleration phase. Now that is largely based off Western Sydney and the new airport in particular. When we talk about international, we've had constraints around the capacity of the airport, obviously curfews and the like. So right now, through the Aviation Attraction Fund, we're building back the airport capacity now better than what it was before, getting the right deals, getting high value travellers to be coming into Sydney. But the work that we've got to do with the people of Western Sydney and all of the stakeholders, the local operators, local governments, and all of us together is to make sure that we have the right path in place now to really capture the next big opportunity, which is Western Sydney. One in seven.
That point, Steve, we've got, we're going to have this open in 2026, 27. Yep. You're going to have people from around the world. There'll be a lot of Australians flying out and Westies flying out. I get that. But the ones that are flying in, they're going to touch down at a 24-hour airport in the morning. They can't check into the hotel in the west or in the east until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Yep. Is our first challenge as a region to work with you on producing product to entertain people, if only for that as a little challenge? How to entertain them when they get off a plane and keep them amused and show them the West on day one?
Look, I think it's multi-channel. That's one aspect, Chris. I mean, right now we've kicked off work on destination management plans for the Central River City and the Western Parkland City. So that work is just kicking off right now. So we've got the visitor economy strategy.
That's product development, not marketing. It's more about the product.
Well, that's the whole mix. It's the destination management plan, working with the local governments, making sure that we've got a clear vision, that we understand what's required. I mean, you're right. Airport lands in 26. If the hotels aren't there, if the conferencing facilities aren't being considered, if the experiences aren't there, things for them to do, if the major events aren't there, then we're going to miss the really big opportunity that comes with that airport. And not only with the airport, but with the enormous amount of investment the government's putting into Western Sydney. 1 in 7 Australians lives in Western Sydney. We launched the Feel New brand at the back end of last year. And that brand is all about this collision of culture and the incredible natural environment that we have here and the energy that you get from that. And there's nowhere that better exemplifies that than Western Sydney. And for me, and for the purposes of today's call, I define Western Sydney as the Central River City and the Western City Parklands. Yep, including the Blue Mountains all the way across.
Olympic Park to the mountains as a general.
Olympic Park to the mountains, exactly right. And that area is the best exemplar really of that. What I think is 156 different nationalities, So 45,
Well,
50.
it goes to Australia's
Yeah.
home ground, Olympic Park,
That's
through
exactly
to the World Heritage listed Blue Mountains, and there's plenty in between.
So the destination management plan, you don't get somewhere unless you have a clear plan and a clear approach that everyone can agree on.
Yep.
And that is our work that we will do with local councils and the operators to start to go, okay, how do we make sure that between the recovery phase that we're in right now and then the acceleration phase 26 onwards, we have the right plan in place and we actually deliver what needs to be delivered.
So whether you're sitting at Campbelltown Council, Canterbury, Bankstown or Hawkesbury,
Yep.
those councils and small businesses in those places will have some mechanism to engage with Destination New South Wales in what their product is, advice on what the market will be.
That's
right.
a
resource that you provide. Okay.
That's exactly right. So Destination New South Wales, a lot of people don't really understand who we are and what we are. So I spoke before about what our mission is, to deliver economic and social benefit for the people by growing the visitor economy. Our organisation has 4 key pillars. It's got the marketing arm. Now that includes international teams who sell in the experience of coming to Sydney. But fundamentally, our marketing's division is to make sure that we're front of mind when people think about travelling. There's awareness, and then drive them all the way through to considering and then booking. And then what we want is high value visitors to stay longer, and really importantly, Chris, to come back. You know, and I often talk about the analogy when people come to Sydney. My concern is today, people come into Sydney, they fly in, they go down to Circular Quay, they look at the bridge and they look at the Opera House and they look at the harbour, grab a bite to eat, maybe they see a show, they get back on the plane and fly home and go, great, I've done Sydney. We've got to fundamentally change that mindset.
New product, new markets.
Through these things to really start to think of Sydney as a city of villages. So that, like when you leave New York and you may have stayed at the Lower East Side, you get on the plane, you go, next time I'm going to stay in Brooklyn, because you know there's a different
Go and see Bushwick and the public art, or go up to all the parts of it.
So we'll be successful that when people start flying back to New York from here, saying,
so how hard is, with all that great intent,
time for the bridge or the Opera House, because I was too busy in Western Sydney experiencing what there is to have there. And
absolutely back in all of that ambition, the backdrop behind you, how tough is it for Bankstown to compete with that? You know, there is a sense collaborative, but there's also competitiveness. I mean, how does Western Sydney put its best foot forward when it's competing with one of the great backdrops of the known planet?
It's not competing. I mean, I've had a retail background, Chris, and and I remember if you're in a prestige, let's think about Bondi Westfield, right?
Yep.
The more great shops that are in that centre, the more people will come to it, and the more that they will spend, and the more that they want to return. So it is great for Sydney and for all of Sydney to have Vivid or the big football finals or whatever it might be, because that benefits the entire city. What we've got to do is work with the local communities, local operators, to find those next major events that are the right events for Western Sydney. So we've got that work underway as well, which I think you know about. We're starting that work to go, what are the 1 or 2 Vivid scale kind of events that we can home in Western Sydney? It's not about taking Vivid there. It's about going, what's going to be unique, something that really drives visitation. And when I'm talking about driving visitation...
You're busy working my Spice Festival, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. We want international visitation for this type of event. That's what we're about. So I've got no doubt we will find the right piece. It'll take some time to deliver it and execute it, but there's already some fantastic pillars in the West. I mean, the Ramadan festival that was on recently, over 1 million people.
Wonderful. Liverpool's Blessed Nights, Howden Street. I think there is that element of, food and multiculturalism is the element to that, right?
Sports, the precinct, the variety. I mean, there's a lot to be had out there.
And it needs to be more experiential then. I mean, both from Sydney Harbour to the Blue Mountains, they both come and look at stuff. Western Sydney probably has to be more about come and experience it, right? Come and feel it, get a little deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is the best example of multicultural,
which has not been Sydney's thing
in the world. Full stop.
Sydney's thing has been, as you said, come on, it's very pretty and go home. We've got to get better at getting deeper, spend another night.
And we've got to get better at celebrating our Aboriginal heritage as well, Chris. I mean, the largest Aboriginal population in Australia is in Western Sydney. I mean, you speak to most Australians and ask them where it is.
So why don't we have the world's best and only really world's best Indigenous art gallery in the West?
Oh, look, I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see that. I mean, I truly believe that Sydney should
Australia's
have.
best cultural product to the world,
Absolutely.
without a doubt, is our Indigenous art.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And that 65,000 plus of continual culture is an absolute game changer. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about, they were talking about Paris. The buildings are so much older than here, and then we said, well, were they there 65,000 years ago? No. And that gives you a really different way of looking at this land. And when we did Feel New South Wales, the Feel that came from our Aboriginal focus group, people like Auntie Margaret Campbell, who spoke to us about what this city means to them. When they put their feet on the earth, they feel the heartbeat of the ocean. It's the feeling that they get. And we've got to get a lot better at bringing that to life. And Western Sydney is an enormous opportunity to really bring that to the fore, along with the other things that are in that area.
At the back of this, we'll add on the video you produced for us recently, showing about some of the imagery of Western Sydney, which seminally in it. If you asked you that 5 years ago, it would have just been stuff at Homebush, on maybe the Blue Mountains, and now there's already an imagery you've got. You're able to consider Homebush almost being the old part of West Sydney. There's this whole new bit. So we'll take it on the back for people to have a look at, which is great. But
hey, Chris, and that's one good example. The reason why I could put that together for you in like 2 days is because when we started, I sent my teams out to Western Sydney and said, guys, the growth for our organisation is going to come from the West. I want our content library to show the diversity and the character of the West. And so we've been out filming and we've been building that content. The
viewers, hang around at the end and you can see what we're talking about. We'll play it on. I got to ask, conscious of your time, you got a world to go and market the joint too. You mentioned footy before. Bit of publicity recently about one of our most prized events, the Rugby League Grand Final, particularly the year when the Eels are going to win it. Are you confident with a resurgent Victoria and Queensland going after it, we're going to keep that?
Absolutely. Look, I think the Premier, Minister Ayres, have been very, very clear. The home of the NRL Grand Final is New South Wales and Sydney, and I've got absolutely no doubt that everything's being done between the NRL and the New South Wales government to secure that. So it's a very important event. It's Sydney, it's our heart, it's our blood, and it's really important that we maintain that event. And I'm sure that everyone's working towards that.
Mate, good luck and Godspeed in the process. I want to the gotcha question of what's your favourite thing in Western Sydney, because everyone else will get the shits about it. But I think you've imbued to everybody the sense that we as a region don't need to be knocking on your door saying what can you do for us. It's underway. The concept of festivals, food and people combined. We've already hosted Olympic Games in Western Sydney. So it's a pity we're not hosting the next Commonwealth Games, but the Fruit Pickers of Victoria. Regional Victoria will be doing that one, but I think it is a market that is maturing into, but it's had its domestic tourism time in the sun. It's ready to welcome with a new international airport. So I think there's every opportunity for this region to not whinge about it, to get on and work with you to ensure we drive the product development, the marketing messages, the experiences that can, literally make the joint hum.
Absolutely. Our focus is firmly West, Chris. I've got the board of Destination New South Wales having our board meeting in a couple of months in Western Sydney for this very reason.
A minister who might know a thing or two about Western Sydney and Stewie Ayres too. So
we're very fortunate to have Minister Ayres as our minister. He knows a great deal about the West. He also knows a lot about his portfolio. He's a good man. So it's a pleasure to work with.
Steve, good luck and Godspeed. You have the retailer's intent coming to this thing, and it's the toughest job in the world, because when you're a brand custodian of a city like Sydney, everybody wants to tell you how to do your job and what the brand should be and how it should. We'll give guys a chance to have a look at this afterwards as well, the video you put together, and yell out whenever the region can give you a hand to sell us to the world.
Absolutely, and I'm always contactable, Chris, and I greatly appreciate your ongoing, collegiality and working together, because it's exciting. I mean, I think it is really, really exciting. We've just got to look forward and just deliver now. And it's all about ideas into actions, and let's take some action together. And I think we've got an amazing, the roaring 2020s are ahead, Chris.
And here's to a vivid without rain.
I hope. All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, mate. Good to see you.